Hello, everyone, and thank you for attending today's webinar, Is BDD Worth It? Considerations for Advanced Test Automation. Before we begin, I'd like to cover 3 housekeeping items for our viewers. First, at the bottom of your audience console, you'll find a number of widgets for questions and additional resources. When you have questions for the presenter during the webinar, click on the Q&A widget and submit your question. We will answer as many questions as possible at the end of the webinar, and if we run out of time, we will get back to you via email. Second, if you need any tech support during the webinar, please use the help option. Third and finally, a copy of today's slide deck is available in the resources section at the bottom of your screen. We will also email you a link to the recording of this webinar within the next few hours. With that, I will introduce our presenter for today's webinar, Eran Kinsberner, Senior Director of Product Marketing and DevOps Chief Evangelist here at Perforce. Eran, thank you for joining us on today's webinar.
Thank you, Shelby, and thank you everyone for joining this webinar. As Shelby mentioned, I'm a Chief Evangelist and author also at Perforce, running the Perfecto brand and a few others. And I'm truly excited to cover today a topic which in my mind is becoming one of the most advanced and adopted one in our industry, which is BDD. So in today's webinar, you are going to hear only about behavior-driven development, BDD, what it is, why is it good for, how to adopt, where to start, and it will fit actually any level. So if you are a practitioner, you will get a lot of value. If you're just getting started, you will also learn the fundamentals of BDD. So with that, I think I can get ready and start. So what is BDD or how it's being defined? And basically, if you look at what our friends from Tricentis recently released, actually last year, they released a test automation open source report. And in this report, they are actually showing the adoptions of BDD with over 50% of the prospects are actually of the prospects that they interviewed using and adopting behavior-driven development. And they're doing it in different parts of the SDLC, the software development lifecycle. But this is just, a market trend. If you go and look at John Ferguson Smart in his DZON article, The 4 Pillars of Business Agility, you will actually learn even more because John is one of the top gurus, if you like, in the industry around BDDs and author of several BDD books. And what he's seeing or actually advising is that BDD is kind of a component in the puzzle around business agility. So for organizations that are trying to adopt Agile and DevOps, deliver software much faster to the market, BDD is kind of an engine or a driver towards releasing with confidence. But it's not just that, because when you are pushing BDD into your daily practices, you also need to make sure that the DevOps culture within the organization fits the Agile methods, whether they are Scrum or Kanban or value stream mapping and stuff like that that people in the Agile world are used to. This also needs to play nicely with BDD, and it actually does. And obviously, it needs to have the engineering discipline, because as you will learn later in this webinar, BDD is not just a one-man or one persona show. It combines multiple personas towards the same goal of releasing in an agile method, agile fashion, highly adopted features that really, do what they need to do. Okay, and it's maybe a kind of a straightforward statement, but in software development and obviously in testing, if you don't get it right and you are testing what you shouldn't, or you are testing something in a different way, you're obviously missing the point. And BDD is just about that, closing the gaps between product requirements, testers, and obviously the business criteria, what the customers are going to get from a value perspective out of your software. So behavior-driven development, if you want the real definition as it's being defined in many, Wikipedia and the Agile Alliance, you can see a few things that are somehow repeating what I've said in the previous slide, but basically BDD is an augmentation of TDD, test-driven development, and obviously acceptance test-driven development, ATDD, towards releasing, again, high valuable features and functions to your customers. Dan North, which is also a very familiar face in the domain of software testing, did this tweet, BDD in one tweet, using examples at multiple levels to create a shared understanding and surface uncertainty to deliver software that matters. Okay, so this is how Dan North looks at BDD. At the end of the day, closing all the gaps, making sure that everyone is on the same page with releasing what's right. With that, let's dive more deeper into what is actually the practice and how you would start and work with BDD. So behavior-driven development actually facilitates collaboration between developers, business testers, and business testers and the business itself, the ones that are either the product owners, the marketers, and the other position holders that represents the voices of the customers. This is where requirements are coming. This is where the developers are getting the user stories from, and the testers needs to really translate all these user stories into scenarios that they are going to implement and test accordingly. So this is basically the three amigos story. So everyone who has seen anything about BDD ran into these three amigos, and this is how BDD really connects between these three personas, all working towards the same goal of releasing high-quality software in an agile environment towards the same goal of meeting the customer expectations. If you look at the right hand of this slide, you'll see the Gherkin scenario. So BDD relies on Gherkin. Gherkin is an English-driven testing technology, if you like, which is built out of given, when, then syntax. So you can see here in a really sample scenario, given the account is in credit and few conditions are happening when the customer is requesting to withdraw cash, then something else is happening. And if you are a product owner or a developer and you are working obviously with Jira and the other requirements tools out there, you are familiar with these user stories, right? As a user, I want to do 1, 2, 3, 4, right? That's the feature. And the feature needs to be really tightly connected with the test scenarios. Otherwise, you're not really testing what the feature needs to do. So you can see here in this right-hand example how you connect a feature, a user story, a requirement. It can start obviously from the epic, from the higher level product requirements up until the feature level, but then you see how you connect the scenarios, the test scenarios, and there can be many of them, to the feature itself, the implementation of the feature itself. And if the test obviously fail, you're missing the point of the feature. It's as simple as that, honestly. So how to get started on, or what is Gherkin 101 for those of you who haven't implemented Gherkin or implemented BDD up until now? I know that many business testers are either doing manual or exploratory testing. We know that as you've seen in the previous slides with the open source market report, are using Selenium or Appium or other test automation frameworks written in Java or development languages. When you're doing BDD, as you will soon see, obviously relies on code written in different languages, but the scenarios themselves are being represented by English syntax in this Gherkin language. And the main keywords that you need to know if you are running to start doing BDD are the following. There is a feature, as you saw in the previous slide. There are different scenarios. Per each scenario, you're going to build the steps in given, when, then syntax. You also have additional supporting keywords like background. Background is really the prerequisites that you would use if you have, let's say, something that is repetitive for multiple scenarios. Instead of writing this same prerequisite one time after the other per each scenarios, you just use this keyword called background, like you see in the example here on that slide, and it's going to be reflected in each and every scenarios in this test suite that you are running. So that's obviously not just a best practice, but also an efficient way to really reflect prerequisite and dependencies on all the scenarios in your suite. Obviously, there are also scenario outlines and examples. So if you want to run data-driven testing, use tables, negative and positive different scenarios and capabilities, you can use these keywords called scenario outline and examples. I will show you some examples and demos during this webinar. But basically, this is it, okay? If you want to start with Gherkin, it's as easy as what you see right now on the screen, looking into the features, the scenarios, looking at what you have in Jira, and really replicating them in a form of a test so you can use it in your test execution. Cucumber, which is the leading, as you can see here, framework for BDD, supports multiple languages like Java, JavaScript, Python, and many others. What we will feature later on in this webinar is a Cucumber-based framework that Perfecto open-sourced and developed called Quantum. And this is exactly, it's on par and agnostic to all the Cucumber definitions that you are seeing right now, but it gives some additional capabilities like running tests in the cloud, on different devices, virtual and real, browsers, and so on and so forth. So I will get to the Quantum framework later on, but it's just I wanted to mention that Quantum and the Cucumber framework are almost the same. One is dependent on the other, meaning Quantum is dependent on Cucumber. As I mentioned, you can use not just the features and the scenarios, but you can also use the outline. So if you have, let's say, the following two scenarios that are, feeding a small cow, given when then, this is like a traditional scenario, you can actually define a scenario example, and you can pass parameters like the weight, energy, and protein to these test scenarios, and suddenly from one scenario you're actually getting additional four, endless types of scenarios that are getting inputs from a table, and that's, the data-driven table, the data-driven capability that you get with BDD. You can do it also, obviously, with Selenium and code-related frameworks, but here we're talking about, business testers trying to automate multiple scenarios, expand the coverage with positive and negative flows, users' flows, inputs, outputs, and so forth. This is where the scenario outlines of BDD and Gherkin are really playing a critical role and allowing you to expand your test automation coverage. If you want to look at, kind of the flow or a structure, of how a typical team would use BDD, you can see here earning a frequent flyer points from flights. That would be, if you like, the user story of the feature that the developer, the three amigos, if you like, would share between them when they are negotiating. This will be the acceptance criteria that they will define, earning points from standard flights, earning extra points based on, cabin category, and so on and so forth. So you can actually break down the user stories into acceptance criteria, and these acceptance criteria are being then translated in a BDD context through Gherkin into test scenarios like you can see here. And obviously, when you're using the examples like the data-driven capabilities, you are expanding the acceptance criteria and covering all these different flows that the business and the product owners are providing you. And again, you can learn much more because BDD it's not just a language, it's a full-blown technology, process, methodology that agile teams are implementing. And again, I'm giving a shout out here to one of my colleagues, a thought leader and really a guru in the space of BDD, John Smart. So if you're not following this guy already, I strongly recommend you do, because he really knows BDD inside and outside. I wanted to add this slide in the context of BDD because I'm getting asked so many times in multiple, events and conferences and even webinars. Okay, so there are these three acronyms: BDD, TDD, ATDD. What is all these DDs? Why are they so important, and why people are using them. So as I presented earlier in this session, BDD is obviously enabling, if you like, TDD and ATDD, right? TDD is the test-driven development, and test-driven development really helps developers really write the first test before they write the first line of code, if you like, which means, let's say you have a user story, you have a requirement, the developer will write something that contradicts the requirement to make sure that it fails and fix it. And once he's fixing it and the test actually passed, he's winning twice. He's implementing what's right, and he's already tested it. This is kind of an agile win-win situation for both developers and testers. So TDD is really part of the BDD as well, because it kind of includes the acceptance criteria that you have seen in the previous slide in the development flow. ATDD is something that you will look at later in the, I would say, in the cycle, and it focuses on capturing requirements in the acceptance test stage or level in your development flow. And it will basically answer one question: does the system do what it is required to do? Okay, it's am I building it right, and am I building the right thing? This is what ATDD, acceptance test testing driven development, will actually give you from a benefit standpoint. BDD is the full-blown, technology or wrapper behind TDD and ATDD, because as I mentioned earlier, it facilitates all these collaborations between the three different personas early in the cycle, okay? And it gives this common understanding between the practitioners on what to test, how to test it, and how to match the test to the product requirements. There are many bullets here. There are many kind of small definitions of TDD, BDD, or ATDD. What you need to understand, none of them is competing with each other. They are all serving the same agile testing manifesto, if you like, agile testing processes. And simply one gives another benefits to the other, but all in all, they're the one that enables you to really do testing at every step of the way up until pre-production, which is the acceptance testing. So now that we really gave kind of an intro to what is behavior-driven development, testing from the customer perspective, collaborating between three different personas, the three amigos, looking a bit into the Gherkin syntax on how to actually write tests, I want to really dive into the framework that Perfecto built on top of Cucumber and BDD, which is called Quantum. Okay, so the Quantum architecture is basically built, of course, on the Cucumber, and that's the Gherkin style, but it enables the clients or the users to really write the scenarios, the step definitions, because writing just English plain text wouldn't drive anything, right? You need the underlying methods, which are called step definitions, to be available and accessible to the Gherkin scenarios, okay? So let's assume you want to go let's say to google.com from a BDD. So as a user, when I click on, go to google.com, I should see the Google search page, right? Something needs to drive these actions and needs to open the browser through a web driver, if you like, and really click on all these elements. And this is what the step definitions are doing. And with Quantum, you can do that either in Java or in JavaScript. That's the only element of code that is required, okay? You can drive all the execution through data providers, which are the testng, if you like, under a Maven project. You can connect all of your executions to Jenkins. So BDD, as mentioned, is an agile framework, okay? It's an agile methodology, which means it is part of the CI/CD pipelines, meaning you can connect it to any Jenkins, Circle CI, TeamCity, or other CI servers to really run your tests, whether they are unit, functional, non-functional, API as well, that Cucumber supports throughout your CI/CD pipeline. What we also built as part of the Perfecto implementation of Quantum, we also built these wrappers around Selenium and Appium, so you can actually drive all these commands back and forth between the test framework and the platforms under test, whether they are a web desktop virtual machine or a mobile device, okay? And this is done through Selenium and Appium commands, Okay. Next, you are also going to see the ability to work with objects through a page object model. It's not a page object model in Java. It's a different way of using page object model. In the demo that I'm going to show you right after these slides, you will see what I mean. But when you're looking at the quantum architecture, you're seeing an end-to-end stop for writing Cucumber scenarios in Java or JavaScript and Gherkin for both mobile applications and web applications running in the Perfecto cloud, which is a global, either private or public cloud. And at the end of the execution, you're getting access to the advanced reporting that Perfecto provides you, meaning you can get all the logs, the screenshots, the video recordings, the HAR files, all the things, the artifacts that you can think of are going to be provided at the end of each Quantum BDD execution. So the benefits of that are obviously full coverage of all the test scenarios that you have for web and for mobile, a full set of reports and quality visibility that you can pass throughout the three amigos, whether, again, they are product and business, testers, and developers, all under the same roof. They have the same single pane of glass and visibility into everything that happens from a test scenario execution perspective. Writing a scenario in Quantum is really on par, agnostic, like you would do with any other BDD Gherkin scenario. It's a given then when syntax out of the box, and this is where you will define the feature files, right? For anyone on the call who is writing Gherkin or BDD, he knows that there are the step definition in Java or JavaScript or Python, but you also have the .feature files. So it's the same here. Quantum supports the Cucumber out of the box. It's fully compliant. And you will simply write the given when then scenarios to run on, again, the mobile and web devices. Then you have the predefined steps that I mentioned in Java and JavaScript. Again, they are fully compliant with Selenium and Appium. You can see here it's the find element and the driver, the web driver protocol that Appium and Selenium are using. It's, again, the same thing, but under one single framework. It's a one-stop shop for you to write advanced test automation for your web and mobile application. What we also provide as I mentioned earlier, and I will also show it in the demo, is as part of the architecture, we are providing you as business testers the ability to create a page object model. And I know that it's kind of an abuse to say page object model and not showing you a class in Java, but what we are providing here is a simple text file with a .lock. That's the file pattern, if you like, but it's really a text file, and you can obtain all the object locators either through the Perfecto Object Spy or from the F12 if you're using a browser in the Perfecto Cloud. You can really scan like you see here. That's taken from the Perfecto Cloud. I can get the locator from Google and simply copy-paste it into my text file. And what it gives me a shared resource for objects or element locators that I can use across all my different scenarios in my scripts, in my test cases. So when I enter password, it will know to locate based on the password name or the button submit or the search field, whatever. I can rename this object ID as I want, but it will be used here in the green brackets text that you see on the screen. It will be used and taken from the object locator, which is a shared resource. The object repository is a shared resource that all the scenarios in the project can access and use. The project structure, and you will see it also in the demo, is, again, a set of feature files like BDD native feature files in Gherkin. You also have the step definitions. You see here step def, and these are the Java or JavaScript files. You also have the test.ng, which are the XML files where you provide all the access to the different platform configurations, like which desired capabilities for Selenium or Appium you want to include, so we know on which devices and browsers to execute the test cases against. And you also have the application properties, and this is the only configuration file that you need to really provide your cloud credentials to Perfecto, the security token, and other dependencies that you might need to run your project. But it's kind of a very simple and easy to manage project structure, whether you're using Eclipse or IntelliJ. We support all the major IDEs, so you can simply import the repository from GitHub, like you will see in my demo, and you have a starter project that is ready to run out of the box, either locally or in the Perfecto cloud, with ready examples for both mobile and web applications. To just show you an example of how the testng is being configured, you can see here the server URL. That's just an example. You can see here the credentials, the user password. Obviously, right now, if you're using this with Perfecto, you don't need a password. It's all SSO, so it's a security token that you're getting. But you see, it's almost the same configuration for Appium if you're targeting mobile application testing on mobile devices in the cloud, or desktop web applications if you are testing, I don't know, a responsive or any web applications like the starbucks.com here. So this is part of the configuration that you are doing both in the testng and the application property file. You can also do, and this is something which is in my mind quite cool, because if you think about the test automation pyramid, you look at the unit level, the API level, and the integration, or the functional and non-functional layer of test automation. And at the end of the day, when you're dealing with continuous testing, you need to have coverage across the board. You want to do both. And inside the sprint, inside the cycle, you want to do both the functional testing, the non-functional testing, the API, and other unit testing that your developer can create. What you can achieve with Quantum, with BDD, is actually everything that I just mentioned. You can run your functional and non-functional testing through Selenium and Appium, but you can also, and this is something cool, you can also configure request and response in JSON formats with Quantum and really test your APIs with BDD under the same roof, meaning you're going to get under the same report both the functional test cases as well as the API results, request and response. And this is how a JSON file that, if you like, would be the input for the API testing. This is, in our case, I want to retrieve from the Perfecto cloud, all the users that are in the demo cloud or whatever cloud that I want to really target. And here I'm providing my security token so I can really access the cloud. And this is a GET request method that I'm doing. What you will see here in the response, or in the scenario, sorry, you will see that the scenario really uses as input the JSON data file, the get users list. This is the input that we're giving in the scenario in BDD. When I'm checking the response code, it should be the status OK, and the response should have the values of either a specific user from the cloud, or I can put it all the users, and I will see it in my report as an output, or the response, if you like, of all the users list in my cloud. But that's just an example. The main point of this slide is that you can complement functional test automation with Gherkin BDD under the Quantum framework, with also adding API test automation earlier in the cycle, either by the developers or the SDETs, and it's quite easy to achieve. Again, this is just double-clicking on the previous slide with the testng configuration for running the API testing, and that's a sample response that we are getting out of the API testing. So you can get it in the Perfecto report, or if you're using an external framework, it can also be passed as a parameter to an external framework, but you can drive the API testing, that's the bottom line, from Quantum itself. So before we are going to touch on the demo and also leave time for questions, I just wanted to summarize what we have seen up until now in this webinar. So we have defined what is BDD, behavior-driven development, how it connects to TDD and ATDD, and actually, they're all under the same umbrella, if you like, how they facilitate collaboration between the three amigos towards an agile testing process or practices within your pipeline, how you can easily automate with BDD and Quantum both functional testing and API testing on web and mobile through Selenium and Appium, which are all compliant with the Cucumber standards or framework. And at the end of the day, and before the demo, you can see here that it really gives you, a functional end-to-end testing of business behavior flows for, again, mobile, web, and APIs. So that's, in my mind, the biggest win here. And if you do want to learn, regardless of the demo, more about the Quantum frameworks and how BDD can really help you with your software test automation agility, we have a dedicated page under the Perfecto website called Behavior-Driven Development Testing. Once you get the slides from the resources folder, you can really click on this link and learn more. Actually go to the GitHub, download the repository, and really get started with testing in a BDD environment, either your mobile, your web, or both. So with that, I just want to run, and it's not going to be a short demo because I did wanted to show you really from a practice perspective, from a practitioner perspective, how to get started with a BDD framework. So if you are using BDD today, it's fine. If you are not using BDD and you want to get started, this demo is exactly going to show you how to get started, what to configure, how to execute, and again at the end, how to examine all of your test reports at the end. So let's move now to the demo, and after that, we'll get to the Q&A section for this webinar. Now that we have gathered all the required information about what is BDD, how to use it, what are the benefits of BDD, and also a brief overview about the Quantum BDD frameworks and which testing types to use, I would like to show you a real live demo and a walkthrough of the Quantum framework. So Quantum framework is an open source BDD solution for both mobile and cross-browser testing. The way you would use it, you would simply go to the Git repository from the Perfecto.io website. You can find the URL. You will clone the repository into your local IDE, whether it's IntelliJ or Eclipse. Once it's installed, you can already start running existing built-in projects that are coming with the framework. The framework is built accordingly. You would have the application property files, and this is where you would customize the cloud username, the cloud security token. I'm using the demo cloud, which is part of the Perfecto demonstration cloud. Other than that, you can leave most of the other parameters intact. You don't need to change them. In my case, I also have, because Quantum can also connect to the Perforce Helix ALM solution, you can actually also configure to connect to an ALM framework such as the Perforce one. Other than that, this is a standard Maven project. You can see it here with all the dependencies that you will obviously need to download. One of the built-in projects are utilizing some following step definitions in Java. In our case, we have created, and again, this comes with the project itself, we have created a class in Java called Google Step Definitions, and you can see it here, and it has 4 different methods. One of them is while I'm on the Google search page, I'm searching for, it should have something, and so on and so forth. And you can see it here that once you are using the given, when, then, that's the Gherkin syntax, and it's also part of the dependencies that we are using here as part of the import. I can now show you how these methods or the step definitions are being used in a BDD Gherkin Scenarios. Here what I have is a long set of scenarios with the annotation of web. The first scenario is searching Quantum on a Google website. Here, given I am on Google search page, this is the method that I've shown you here. I'm on the Google search page. That's simply a Selenium script that goes to the google.com website. Okay? Then I need to validate that it should have the Quantum framework as part of the search results. There is another scenario that is, searching for Java, and another scenario that is actually based on, kind of a data-driven, and it searches for 2 different results. We also have additional data-driven scenarios. One of them is using the examples option that comes with Gherkin. There is also a data-driven that reads from a CSV file. As you can see here, this is the data file that is called testdata.csv. This is the file here. Let me show you. And here it's, again, searching for or using the test scenario with different inputs and validating, obviously, the outputs. And also, you can see here another outline, search quantum with a data table like this. So we have tried to come up with, some different test scenarios in Gherkin, utilizing some Java-based Selenium step definitions, including some data-driven commands. In addition, the Quantum framework also comes with a basic text file, which is serving as the page object model. You can see here that I can specify different XPath or Selenium element locators and really use them across different scenarios, like any page object model in Java would do. But here, you do not need to write any code. You just need to obtain from either the Selenium IDE or from your F12 tools, the developer tools or other inspector in your browser, the element IDs, and copy-paste them into this file and just use them as part of your scripting. Last but not least, I have a data provider test.ng file, and here I'm specifying all the different I would say configurations, like the Windows 10 on Chrome latest, and Mac OS. Here I have High Sierra with Chrome 87, and so on and so forth. I also have, because this is a web application, I want to also test it on iOS and Android. As you know, the Perfecto cloud is a digital cloud for testing both on mobile devices, real and virtual, as well as browsers. So I'm also specifying a random Samsung Galaxy device and a random iPhone smartphone. The only thing I need to do right now is obviously to run the test.ng. I will just click on this here, and you will see that I'm going to open a set of WebDriver connections to the different configurations that I specified in my test.ng, and all of them will run in parallel sequentially, the different scenarios that I have here in Gherkin. The only thing that I need to do right now is to go to my Perfecto platform. Again, that's a web SaaS platform. And soon I will start seeing all the different scenarios running on both the desktop permutations as well as the mobile real devices. So here you can see I have X devices. You can see here the Quantum Perfecto framework. This is already running on an iPhone. So I think this is an Android device, actually. Let's see which device. That's a Samsung Galaxy S10e running on Android 10, and it's running the Quantum Perfecto test. And you can also start seeing the same test running on desktop browser configurations. Soon we'll see both the Windows and the Mac OS with Chrome. So everything is starting to run in parallel across all these different permutations. It's all running in the cloud at scale, leveraging both Java, Selenium, and Cucumber BDD. You can see here that's the Mac OS configuration, and we'll soon start seeing the Chrome browser running on this permutation. So this is how easy it is for you to either get from your developer or write on your own a Java class in Selenium or just in Appium if it's just for mobile, and simply start specifying the different Gherkin scenarios in the given when then syntax to run them in the Perfecto cloud across the different geographies as you want. So obviously it will take some more time because there are a lot of scenarios and we have a lot of configurations, but I think you're getting the picture. This is how it will run. If we just want to see a specific results or test report from what we have executed, we can see one step here, and you can see that this test is running in the given when then syntax. I will just unfold all the different steps, and you can see it here, and you can see the screenshots being taken. This is searching for the Quantum Perfecto on the Windows VM with Firefox 84. And by the way, you can also see the different annotations. You can see the web annotation. That was the core annotation on the IntelliJ. And you can see all the other scenarios that are being sent as a parameter or a tag to the report. So you can slice and dice after that all the test reports and gather a conclusive test results across all the different configurations. So you can see it here. You can see also a video that was captured from the Quantum BDD execution. Everything was executed quite fast in the cloud, and you see here all the details, all of the reports as part of the Perfecto environment. If we are already in the environment, just a word about the platform itself. So you have seen the platform running Selenium with Quantum BDD. You have seen the report. If I was running it from CI, and Quantum is fully capable of running and scheduling all of your test case with Jenkins in the cloud, you can also do manual testings on both mobile and web. Here, if I would just go and look at all my mobile devices, I can do manual testing on all of these devices, either in a public shared cloud or a private dedicated cloud environment. And I can open the device and do whatever I want to do, install applications and test them manually. I can also do the same on a web virtual machine. Regardless of the permutations, we are supporting all of the browsers and on Windows and Mac, so you can actually do manual testing on all of these configurations in multiple geographies, both on web and mobile. So that's, just a word about the platform itself for both manual testing, automation, and reporting. With that, I would like to conclude the demo, and let's get back to our slide and wrap up this webinar. Awesome. So now that we've seen how the Quantum framework is actually built, and you've seen the execution live, including the reporting, and also you got a word about the platform itself. Obviously, you can do your test automation not just with Cucumber or Quantum, and manually you can actually do all the code-related stuff in Perfecto. So whoever is familiar with Perfecto, we support all the other open source. So you can do Selenium, Appium, Espresso, XUI test, Cypress, and many other frameworks. So you can automate with code or with BDD, which is kind of a 50-50, if you like, all under the same environment, same cloud. And with that, I'm happy that we left some time for questions, and I do hope that you got at least the value of the importance of behavior-driven development in Cucumber. You've seen the demo and you understood how a framework can be built on top of Cucumber and kind of expand some of the abilities. And with that, let's see which questions came in, and we can answer them. Whatever questions that I cannot address right now, we can follow up afterwards.
All right. The first question from the audience asks, if I have an existing Selenium or Appium test automation suite, can I transition to BDD?
Sure. I've seen actually some quite interesting use cases where a team had Selenium or other implementations of code-related frameworks and tests, and as part of the transition to Agile, they actually did this shift towards BDD. The way you would do it would actually be taking some of the different scenarios, because when you're dealing with Selenium test cases, it's a full class or set of classes in Java, and they are not built in the Gherkin style, in the Gherkin scenario, in the given when then syntax. So you actually want to really do it methodically and really extract the business cases or the scenarios out of the Java classes implemented in Selenium or Appium, and just take the element locators that you already have, the kind of the driver protocol specific code that you have, and really encapsulate it into a step definition and just write your Gherkin utilizing this step definition. So to make this a shorter answer, it's possible, it's doable, it has some value, it connects the dots between the three amigos, but it requires kind of a handshake between both the business testers who are going to translate the Java files into a scenario and the SDETs or the test automation engineers to really extract what's needed into a format of a step definition, which is a subset of the Java class that was implemented in Selenium. So it's possible.
Awesome. The next question from the audience asks, what does Quantum add on top of the standard BDD Cucumber framework?
Sure. And if the demo was not sufficient, I can summarize. Basically, Quantum, as you've seen, is fully compliant with Cucumber. Okay. The only thing that you get, or the few things that you actually get on top of Cucumber, which is also open source, are the connectivity to the cloud, the additional capabilities to drive tests on both mobile devices, real and virtual, and desktop web browsers, and at the end of the day, also a very robust reporting platform or environment, as I've shown you right now in the demo, that really gives you additional values that you simply cannot get out of the box with Cucumber. Cucumber is great, and Quantum utilizes it, but the reports are very standard, very basic. So think about an agile team using, Selenium, Appium, and now Quantum. They're going to get a single pane of glass for all of their test frameworks, all of the reports in a single place, but with also mature capabilities of the reporting framework that we have that you simply cannot get. So it's the lab, it's the cloud, the access to the different platforms, the reporting, and the advanced mobile and web testing abilities that we have built through step definitions coming with a framework on top of Cucumber.
Great. The next question from the audience asks, is BDD going to fall behind now that scriptless and codeless tools are rising?
Okay, so that's a very interesting question, because obviously we are seeing the market trends of low code, no code tools for test automation, and if you put BDD is also kind of classified as a low code testing solution. You write step definition in Gherkin with a bunch of step definitions written in code like Java. So I think that scriptless or codeless tools and Cucumber are close in nature, and they're targeting the same persona of a business testers. And I think that they will continue to live side by side for a while, because scriptless is great, and even Perfecto does come with and Perforce comes with a scriptless solution called Testcraft. So we do support a scriptless tool, but when you think about agile development and working with three personas, Cucumber does a bit more than, and BDD does a bit more than just the scriptless itself. Scriptless is the tool. BDD, as I mentioned throughout the webinar, is more like a methodology, an agile testing methodology that fits in agile practices. And this is something that codeless tools are not really there yet. So in my mind, there is not going to be a disappearance of not the Selenium of the world and the Appium, as well as not the BDD ones. I think they're going to all play together, each finding its own place within the tool chain in your DevOps teams.
Great. Well, I think that is all we have time for today for questions. If we didn't get to your question, we will reach out to you via email to answer it. And thank you to our audience for your attendance and participation today. And thank you, of course, to our presenter, Ron. We hope to see you next time.
Thank you, Shelby, and thank you, everyone, for attending.